area where those facilities are there to handle that type of situation. Also, if there's any fire, we'll exit the building and maybe congregate outside in the parking lot area here as well. So that's kind of that. If there's, hopefully none of the discussions causes any angst where we have or need a defibrillator or anything like that. However, that's up towards the security guard's desk for those here in the room. Currently, regarding the research program itself, we're currently in the midst of selecting new topics for the upcoming FY24 year, and currently have a few senior leaders, DEs and DDs up in the room today on the 4th floor, and as well as tomorrow. They're looking at various topics currently, and I'll try to make it back up there to see how things are going there. But very good discussions, and a lot of good research topics are probably going to come out and for the upcoming year as well. As Shelley mentioned, and hopefully some of you were actually on the call. Hopefully you were able to register for the executive EDC presentation that was given here last week. But there was some very good topics for the EDC 7 that's coming up, and I'm sure Kirk is going to give us more details on that as well if you were not on the call to see that. However, I was glad to see at least 2 continue in the capacity of the EDC, the TIMS, which is the Traffic Incident Management one, as well as the Strategic Workforce Development EDC is continuing as well. So that's 2 good ones that I thought would be great. In addition to that, and again, Kirk will probably share a little bit more details along those lines, but coming out of this, we typically have an innovative summit, and I'm not sure they've actually scheduled the actual date just yet, but all of you will also be invited to attend that and kind of listen in. And the purpose of the summit is typically to kind of drive out, for Texas, what are those EDC's 7 initiatives, as well as perhaps even some innovations, because I believe you guys are have an innovation showcase, perhaps.
Yeah, we're mid-February is the virtual EDC summit. Okay. So we're going to give you a little bit more details on that later.
All right, good. Yeah, so that looked like for those on virtually, what was mentioned was February is the time frame for the EDC summit, and we'll have more discussions along those lines. Outside of that, guys, again, welcome and thank you guys for being here. Hopefully we have some good discussions and some identification, some innovations perhaps that you can take back with you to your various agencies and organizations. So thanks. And I think next is Darren. Okay.
All right, Shelley, how much time do I get?
Okay, all you have to do is talk, luckily.
As much time as you want.
Thanks. Hey, welcome. I believe the previous STIC meeting, we actually were able to come to Sassy, but this being our second one in our new consolidated campus facility, I hope you guys get to see it, get to enjoy it. I think it's a great example of TxSTIC looking towards the future workforce and thinking about what do we envision that need being and what are the expectations of the workforce for the next 50 years, not for the previous 50 years. And a lot of thought went into the building the facility on those lines and what we need to do to enable and how we can support hybrid work and things like that. And we're still doing a little bit of development. We're still getting these conference rooms up to the standard we want them to be. So bear with us on that. But, I'm just glad to see y'all being able to come here and be with us and us being able to share what's going on, both in research and innovation for mobility and not just TxSTIC alone, but for the state. And then hopefully share that with our peer state agencies where they can take advantage of that, as well as our transportation partners across the state. Kevin just spoke to you. He's the research division director. We do have a new division director for our strategic planning division. Erica Kemp is here with us today. And she came from us from another part of TxSTIC, where she has been working on what we call TxSTIC Connect, which is effectively our portfolio management program across all aspects of developing our system, and has been working that diligently for several years now. Prior to that, and she was both the section director as well as the lead of that project. And then she also worked at AT&T for several years as vice president and other positions, general manager, and things like portfolio management and innovation. So really excited that she was able to join the team. She's already made a lot of advancements and started things rolling, and so it's made my role easier, and I'm very appreciative of her choosing to throw her hat in. We have a number of initiatives. One of the ones that she'll be overlooking is the idea of a comprehensive portfolio of what is innovation in mobility and in TxSTIC, and that ranges everything from a large scale project like a connected system of infrastructure to everyday innovations that are happening in the field, or to everyday counts research initiatives, and collecting all that and being able to visualize that in a way that we haven't been previously, seeing all those different components, tracking all them, not necessarily running all them, but being the ones that are aware of that for the department, and then where appropriate, making that available and shared not only within the agency but to all of our partners. And it's a big lift. I mean, the parts are there, the pieces are coming together, and we expect in the next year that you'll see a lot coming from that we have not been able to easily share in the past. And so I'm pretty excited about that effort. And in entailing that, everyday counts, Kirk will hit all that, but we do have several large projects that are efforts underway. What does that mean for TxSTIC? As well as other connected and autonomous vehicle strategies that we're just getting off the ground in the department. And there, research been done at the national level, as well as components of everyday counts, and then also work that we've done both in the department as well as nationally for several years now. And the laws the state has passed and that facilitate some of these things in the industry then coming to our state, but all of that's together kind of rapidly in the last year, it feels like, and certainly in the last 6 months. And that extends to things like electrification. If you're not aware, if I didn't say this last time, we like all the other states submitted our national electric vehicle infrastructure plan recently, and we've now posted draft requests for grant applications on the website for TxSTIC, so that industry or all those that are interested in proposing to that can look at the drafts and give us feedback on what we might not have addressed in those drafts, with the intent of getting those out as soon as Federal Highways or the Joint Program Office at the federal level announces their final rules. Then very shortly after that, then we'll go out with our first round, which will then build electric infrastructure on our highways initially, and then across the rest of the state. And then we also had a urban air mobility committee develop a report that we just submitted in the last couple of months to the legislature, and that was directed in the last legislative session. Potential there that both urban air mobility, electrification, as well as autonomy could be legislation or discussed during the legislative session. So as an entity, we'll be watching all of those areas to see what might develop within our legislature, and then respond accordingly to whatever we're directed to do. So pretty excited about those things. We're excited about the ongoing research program. I got to sit in on some of Kevin's activities last week, and it's really fascinating to see current research projects come in and talk about where, how they've advanced in the last couple of years. And then again, talk about what are they proposing as potential research for the upcoming awards. And that is continuing to, as always, we typically have about 100 to 120 active research projects in the department. And we're looking to make those more and more available again to our partners, but also to scale those. That's another thing that we feel we can do better at, is taking completed research and not only have it happen in, and useful in a couple of places in the state, but where are those ones that apply broadly across the state? And let's find, better mechanisms to make sure that that becomes part of our overall system. So we're pretty excited about getting that happening and going forward. Again, Al's not here today. I wish he were, but Kirk's got, he has been on top of everyday counts and all those things and what's happening there. And I'm actually excited here because I missed the executive session. I was being a mouthpiece for one of those initiatives and talking about them. So I'm really excited to sit in the front row and listen about all these initiatives today and hear what new ones have come out. And one other one I failed to mention, we did have a meeting that included a number of state communities of practice that revolve around autonomous vehicles and had a good discussion with John Corbin from Federal Highways yesterday about not only autonomous vehicle guidance that they've published in the past, but some of the work that they're now doing on looking at digital infrastructure and data and how that can better serve the public and how the states and the localities can work on transportation data and in a collective environment and make that more useful for decision making or for safety to the public. So excited about that initiative kicking off, and we'll be working with them hopefully earnestly in the near future. Any questions of me?
Do you want to introduce someone special? Is she gonna speak at all?
Erica?
No.
Erica, would you like to come say anything?
No, Erica, you're not, it's okay.
Oh, no, we said we're gonna do it.
I'm just teasing.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, no, thank you. All the tech issues are done. We're good. Kirk, you'll be up in a minute. Did you hear about me?
Okay.
Oh, he's got Alice.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud. Yeah, I'm Alan considered for today. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go through some talking points that Al left for me. Apologize for Al not being here today. He had another event scheduled last minute. But as Kevin and Darren mentioned, on December 2nd, they had an executive level virtual rollout of EDC 7. EDC Everyday Counts has been around since 2011. And so this is like the 7th round. Every 2 years they come out with another round of innovations for us to pursue. And I'll provide, we have Federal Highway headquarters online, and later on down the road, we're going to have them present for me the EDC 7 innovations and give you some more facts and figures about that. Both Jeff Horowitz and Sarah Lowry on the line. And later on, we'll talk about the proposed innovations that are coming out of EDC 7. And there's 7 of them actually. And they build upon the legacy of EDCs that we've supported in the past. And they're surrounded around 3 core priorities: improving the safety of all road users and building sustainable infrastructure for the future. So they're also looking at things like climate change and CO2 reductions as part of the planning process, and we'll be pursuing that as part of EDC 7, but you'll hear more about that later. The EDC Virtual Summit, as I mentioned to y'all earlier, is going to be February 14th to the 16th, 2023. And we're going to be talking to the states and doing virtual caucuses around the country to find out which EDC innovations fit best for the states for pursuing in 23 and beyond. The virtual summit is going to be open to state, local, and tribal partners, as well as our transportation stakeholders and the innovation community. So pretty much all are welcome to attend those. We'll send out some additional information on those later as we find out more. The purpose of EDC Virtual Summit will be to tell the newly released innovations announced under EDC 7 and to provide input from stakeholders and help prioritize and discuss initiatives among state, local public agencies, and tribal partners. Down the road on Friday this week, we're hosting a planning and environmental linkages workshop here at TxSTIC, and that's going to be on the 9th from about 9 o'clock to about 4. It's going to be here. It's going to be hosted by Federal Highway Resource Center, the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, HDR consultants, and Pell was an innovation promoted in EDC 1 way back in 2011. So the first round of EDC was included Pell as one of the innovations. A few months back, the US DOT Volpe Center released the first public version of the Resiliency and Disaster Recovery Tool Suite, version 2022.1. The RDR is designed to help transportation agencies explore the scenario place for transportation disruption and environmental mitigation across a range of uncertain future extreme weather events like floods, earthquakes, etc. in the context of long-range transportation planning. The RDR leverages standard travel demand modeling that already exists within the framework of the MPO, looking at future travel forecasts. During the development of the RDR tool suite, the beta version, they conducted testing with Federal Highway, the Volpe Center, and a pilot study was conducted in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia in collaboration with Virginia State DOT planning agencies and also partnered with HGAC, the Houston Galveston Area Council, to execute additional pilot testing in advance of public release. That's about all I had for now, but do y'all know the 7 innovations coming out of EDC7? Y'all want to find out more about them? I suppose so, that's why you're here. So do you want to go ahead and let Sarah and Jeff talk about EDC7, or do you want to skip over that for now?
Are y'all ready for a break now, or do y'all want to wait a little bit and go ahead and hear about this now and then take a break?
I'm not so sure.
I'll give y'all a choice. I'm sorry?
I'm not so sure.
Oh, I think Jeff's gonna cover it. Is Jeff gonna cover it? Or
Yeah, Jeff or Sarah. I think
Yeah,
they're both online. Same. There's Jeff right there. See?
Nice waving.
Jeff, welcome aboard to the TxSTIC meeting, and I'll let you have the floor for now.
All right, thank you. If we could get the opportunity for one quick second here, I think Sarah's going to help us run the slides here and give it a quick second. It's great to see everybody in Texas. I know I've seen a few of you here recently at some of our other events, and hopefully get to see more of you in 2023. If anyone is heading towards the annual Transportation Research Board meeting in DC, both Sarah and I will be there. We will have an exhibit hall. We'll also have some sessions going on. So if you're going to be around, please stop in and say hi. We'd love to catch up with all of you. All right. And with that little bit of a stretch, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you this morning. I will be honest and say we're not going to get into too much of the meat and potatoes of the 7 initiatives, but we're going to give you enough to keep you interested and wanting to learn more in the next couple months. So we can move to the next slide, please. All right, again, the foundations of the program here are its state, local based approach to finding the best underutilized innovations and helping you be successful in your deployment. As Kirk mentioned, we are in the throes of our 7th cycle right now, coming up in 2023. It's hard to believe we have had 6 successful cycles, and now we're coming up with a new round. And with that, I think, Sarah, I think those are still on that do loop thing. So if we can go to the next slide, we can maybe run the video tape that was presented during the executive session on Friday, which hopefully some of you attended, and we will share more information about the recording and so forth here in a little bit of time as well.
U.S. Department of Transportation logo, Federal Highway Administration.
Every day, you have an opportunity to use innovations to transform the transportation system. The Federal Highway Administration's Everyday Counts program, known as EDC, is a state-based program that rapidly deploys proven but underutilized technologies and processes. EDC Round 7 highlights innovations to improve safety for all users, build a sustainable infrastructure for the future, and grow an inclusive workforce. The nighttime crash fatality rate is 3 times the daytime rate. Enhancing visibility along corridors, intersections, and pedestrian crossings can help reduce fatalities. This initiative promotes traffic control devices and properly designed lighting to improve safety for all users. Over 6 million crashes a year in the U.S. put responders and other vulnerable road users at risk. Next-generation traffic incident management programs promote emerging technologies such as emergency vehicle lighting, tethered unmanned aerial systems, and queue warning solutions. These and other tools can advance safety and operations to mitigate incident impacts. Transportation is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the U.S. This initiative provides resources to help agencies quantify greenhouse gases and set goals to decrease motor vehicle, construction, and life cycle emissions during planning and project development. Shrinkage cracking in concrete is a limiting factor in achieving long-term concrete performance. Internal curing mitigates shrinkage cracking. It has the potential to triple the service life of concrete bridge decks and extend the performance of pavements and repairs. Highway pavement construction materials, such as asphalt and concrete, have environmental impacts during their life cycle. Environmental Product Declarations, or EPDs, document those impacts. This tool helps states support procurement decisions and quantify embodied carbon reductions using life cycle assessments for sustainable pavements. Many design-build contracts do not adequately address opportunities for disadvantaged businesses. New practices are available to support the effective integration of program requirements to help small disadvantaged businesses compete for design-build contracts. The demand for highway workers is growing, and emerging technologies require new skills. This innovation helps stakeholders improve their ability to identify, train, and place highway construction workers. The focus will expand to rural and tribal communities to increase career opportunities. Together, we can enhance safety for all users, incorporate equity in project planning and delivery, and support a sustainable and resilient infrastructure.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. Well, there you have it. And here is the roster in one place for us. All right, for me, these are great. This round, the 7 initiatives, I think cover just about every aspect of what we do in Federal Highway, from our safety offices to operations. We have a new player with the Civil Rights Program in DBE, touching on the design build innovation from EDC1. So it's a pretty balanced platform and portfolio we have. A nice type number once again, like we had with round 6. And as we heard in the executive session, I think there will be something for everybody to pursue. And by everybody in round 7, we're going to be reaching out to potentially new stakeholders, new partners, to work to get them interested and learning about the technologies and practices we're promoting with Everyday Counts. And those would be our friends in other modes. If you listened to the session on Friday, and if you weren't able to join, we will make available the recording here soon. But we're definitely in the throes of a new partnership with our friends at the Federal Transit Agency, and looking to find ways to expand the reach of these great initiatives with other stakeholders in other modes, most notably transit and transit agencies across the country. That is going to be a work in progress. So as we go from the great launch on Friday to the virtual summit coming up in a couple months, you will hear more about how we're going to work in partnership to get some new players and new stakeholders into the program and expand the reach of Everyday Counts. And as Kevin said earlier, Kevin Pete said, we have a couple repeats from the round 6, and we tend to do that from cycle to cycle. And strategic workforce development and next generation traffic incident management are going to be our continued initiatives heading in for the next couple of years. And I know both of those topics have been topics which have been of high interest in the Texas jurisdiction there with the TxSTIC and the incentive projects you've pursued the past 2 or 3 years. So next slide, please, Sarah. And I am not going to read through these, and I'm not going to give much of a of an orientation. You will learn a lot more about these in the coming weeks and months, as I said, but we're resuming a focus on safety with the nighttime visibility topic. And again, that's one that can reach and support all users of a transportation system, continuing next generation traffic incident management with new tools and practices that are coming along the way, integrating greenhouse gas in transportation planning. That's an exciting one in the environmental planning arena. The next slide will give us the next 3 out of the EDC 7, enhancing performance with internally cured concrete. So that's our hard infrastructure, no pun intended, looking for more durable structural life and longer lasting facilities, which will enhance life cycles. Environmental product declarations for sustainable project delivery. You have the nutrition items listing like you would have on the back of a jar of peanut butter. So you'll learn more about that. Rethinking DBE and design build. I mentioned that earlier. That's with our civil rights discipline in a first time partnership internally with them. And then the final one is the continuation of the strategic workforce development. And just can't not use the iconic picture that we've started to associate with the workforce development initiative here. So again, continuing to broaden the reach of the use of those tools to newer communities in rural America as well as Indian country. So much more to follow on each of these 7. Right now we have a web page with those descriptions. Each of the pages describing each of the 7 initiatives in depth is a work in progress right now. So visit and bookmark our webpage, and as more information becomes available, you'll have it at your fingertips. The virtual summit's our next big event, February 14th through 16th. You will see on the slide our exhibit hall from 2020. We're working some renovations to the exhibit hall, so it won't look exactly like that, but it will be the same overall approach to the event. We'll have 3 half days, each focusing on one of the themes you saw at the beginning of our video, and you'll hear from peers across the country as well as our subject matter experts. So we're excited to be planning our 7th Everyday Count Summit here for a couple months down the road. And as was mentioned also, we are going to continue to spotlight and showcase those homegrown innovations from across the country at the National STIC Network Showcase. Again, look for a little bit of a different feel to the showcase, but the same approach, having 7 or 8 different topical areas that everybody can submit their best, most notable homegrown initiatives. Again, we're looking for things that a state or local agency have already put to practice. Emphasis on that as opposed to spotlighting the great efforts any agency has with their research community. We're thinking the deployment side of things once again. And each STIC has the opportunity to submit up to 6 initiatives. So I think Shelley is the point person for Texas, and there are a few more weeks to make your final selections for what you'd like to submit to us. And like you see the gentleman there approaching the desk, everybody will have the opportunity to fill their virtual briefcases with the great technologies and practices that you can appropriate and borrow from your neighbors across the country. So we're looking forward to that. We will also keep promoting the many great innovations that were submitted back in the 2020 cycle. So more to come with the STIC Showcase in 2023. And as we did 2 years ago, we'll probably handpick about a dozen or a dozen and a half over the 3 themes of the day to give a quick elevator or 6-minute pitch on those submittals that we thought might be a great diverse session for the showcase. And again, we're going to look for diversity in submittals as well, those from the state DOT ranks, local public agencies, Indian country, LTAP centers again. So we have a nice rounded ecosystem of innovators being represented at the showcase. All right, next slide, please. And real quickly, obviously you know what the STIC network is because you're at the meeting, but the next couple slides will just give you a running tally of, from the national perspective, what topics have been most requested for support from the STIC incentive program, up to $100,000 per year per STIC, as you know. So the next slide will show us the top 12 from fiscal year 2020, and the ever popular drones, UASs, received about $500,000 from across the nation in support there. Weather responsive strategies and the geotech technologies from EDC. I think EDC 6 were the third most requested for support in fiscal year 2020. 21's list, you can see your favorites are up there as well, with strategic workforce being the top at 400,000. Weather responsive strategies again, digital as-built, which was new to EDC round 6, and traffic incident management related tools and activities was the fourth most requested there. So no need for a drum roll, but let's see what you and the other STICs were most interested in with fiscal year 2022. Digital as-built once again, strategic workforce once again, and drones always popular. So the fiscal year 2023 allocations are just going to be getting underway soon. So it'll be interesting to see how and where our new initiatives are going to fall into this leaderboard, but that will be a conversation for a future STIC meeting. So a couple more quick slides, then I will hand over the podium. If you are interested in keeping up to date with our new round and our successes from past rounds, subscribe and receive our EDC news and our Innovator magazines every other week, every other month. When we have registration ready for the virtual summit, as Kirk mentioned, all will be welcome and invited to participate. You will be able to register through our EDC webpage, but you will also see some announcements about the logistics and the event itself through EDC news. So keep informed and keep in tune through those and other means. And I think we have just about 2 more slides. I'll see if Sarah has anything. So please contact us. We love to hear from you at any time. And as you know, we have innovation@dot.gov as a crowdsourced email that you can reach any of us about any questions, comments, concerns, interesting innovations you're working on. So we love to hear from you. And with that, I think I will close. Sarah, anything for the good of the order as well? Thank you for letting me present on your behalf today too.
Yes, thank you. As you can tell, I don't have a voice, so thank you, Jeff, for taking over.
Are there any questions for them while we have them, or do y'all just want to take a break?
And Shelley, is it okay if I hang on for a little bit? I want to see a couple of the presentations. My schedule is still good for that.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me okay, Jeff? Okay, good. Just making sure that's still working.
Okay.
It's everywhere, so it's strange. But all right, thank you so much. Yeah, feel free to hang on. Sarah, I'm sorry we couldn't hear you, but thank you for being here and supporting Jeff. And I look forward to working with you guys on the next EDC round. It sounds pretty exciting.
Looking forward to working with everybody, Shelley. Thanks.
Yes, of course. Okay, and the deadlines for that, actually December 23rd is the Homegrown Innovation deadline, and I'll be collecting those. I'm already working with James Core, and we'll be collecting from STIC members as well. I'm sure I'll be working with Natalie or Tom on that, and whoever would like to bring it up. David, if you wanted to, bring up some ideas for Tim or anything like that. There's a lot of great ones going out there, and I think if you relate it to traffic safety, then it's going to be a shoe-in, right? So any of those innovations, just homegrown. I'm sure we'll have a couple in the top, like we did last time. We had a couple that presented and did those elevator pitches they talked about. That worked pretty well, and we had someone from Houston. We had so district and division representation on that, and so hopefully we'll have that again. And then from our external partners, we'd love to bring anything up we can. I think we had 10 last time, the one that they showed, and they'll still be showing up on the list, it sounds like. And then just a few of those, again, were elevated. We had, I think, 4 internal TxSTIC and the rest were external from our partners. So we do like to bring you guys up, and 6 is lower, but I think we can figure that out. So. And just be in touch with me on that, and then LTAP is going to be sending out reminders for everyone. And if with that, I think we can go ahead and go to break now. You guys were very patient. And there's some food in the back if you'd like to grab something. There's also lunch later if you're not yet hungry. So we'll be getting those lunches at 12 o'clock. So break time for the next 10 minutes or so.
Yes.
Let me mute this.
You can, sure, sure.
Thanks, Darren.
apologize.
I know.
It's fine. They can
It's not hers.
Okay.
I think that's her area.
Can everyone hear me? Is that echoing too much? Okay, but we may not hear you, so too loud, let me know. Okay, Jeff, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can y'all hear Jeff okay in the back? All right, so next up, we have Jeff Kopp with TTI, and he's going to talk about our favorite Next Gen 10 project. And we're going to hear the latest, how things are going. Jeff, fire away.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to make this quick because I'm finding that I'm having a very unreliable internet connection here. So with that in mind, first, thank you. Should I share the presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
We have master slides, though, if you're having trouble, just, is that okay with you guys?
Mhm.
Or you can move them.
Do y'all see my slides?
Yes, they're not in full screen yet. It's always fun.
How about
There you
that?
go. Looks good, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. This is an update on the what we call CAD to TMC. What we are doing essentially is trying to bring law enforcement 911 data into the traffic management centers so they're able to detect and identify incidents faster and potentially even do some preliminary assessment prior to law enforcement and other responders arriving on the scene. To start, just want to give a quick project overview of what this is for those of you who are not familiar. What we're doing is we are looking to obtain 911 call data from police departments in near real time to detect incidents quicker. The project is to develop an interface to help traffic management center staff to be alerted to incidents. We're creating a performance dashboard to show incident response performance. We are creating a data archive, so we are able to better analyze how we are performing in regards to incident management. And also with this, we are looking to combine this information with crash data. And that's something through what they provide us as part of a crash. We're able to actually tie that information to a crash report and get a much larger understanding of what's going on in an incident. So in terms of our update, the first issue I want to talk about is the actual data transmission. We initially thought this was going to perhaps be our biggest problem. Our initial concern, it wasn't just that we were potentially working with, we identified perhaps 130 agencies, but it was more that we would be working with 15 different proprietary systems and trying to figure out how we're going to get data from these 15 systems. And what we were able to determine, though, which seriously helped us out, was we identified one commonality with all of them, is that all these systems dump their data into a SQL database. Basically, whenever an event occurs and they enter data, a button is hit once someone, the call comes in and data is entered, and that data gets dumped into a database. And what we're able to find is that we can just modify these data transmission scripts it could be modified for each system. Basically, all we're doing is if there's a system that has a name, maybe incident clearance time or clearance time, whatever the field name is, you can modify the field name and it'll be able to transmit the data. So that in itself was a huge breakthrough in terms of this project. It will also allow for, this will allow this to be less expensive with far fewer IT requirements for law enforcement agencies. There's some law enforcement agencies that have a huge IT staff, and there's one that probably shares the staff with the rest of the city. So this is definitely a big plus. We also, we're working on our user interface prototype. Currently, it works off a map currently. You can click on an incident icon. It brings up incident data, what terms of when the call came in, any updates to the call. With the map, TMC can find the closest camera to the incident and then get an idea of, what's going on. Again, this can come in before even, a law enforcement officer is dispatched to the scene, so we can get a camera on this and perhaps identify whether the scene is much grander than what even 911 knows about. We're looking at making certain modifications, possibly providing a list view, because some folks at TMCs work better with lists. If a new item pops up on the list, they might be able to see that better. The idea is to optimize the interface so that staff can use it best. And also one of the things we're looking for is to weed out noise. And when I say weed out noise, this system at the moment is focused on limited access roadways. So we are predominantly looking at the freeways and tollways, managed lanes. And so with that, we want to be able to, at this time, just take out all the other incidents that are on other city streets. If they want to expand this, that can be added back in. But at this moment, we are focusing on limited access freeways that TMCs currently cover. A big aspect of this is, and this is one of our challenges at the moment, is development of a memorandum of understanding. One of the things law enforcement agencies have expressed is they want a document showing that TxSTIC will be a good steward of the data that they're receiving. The data is being provided by these agencies at no cost, and our understanding that it's important in terms of better incident management. So we've developed some initial drafts, and the original drafts were using existing language, but they were a little too restrictive on the law enforcement agencies, which that in itself were potentially seen to be a detriment to the project, because basically it's a one-way transmission. And the need for restrictions on their end seems something that might actually cause some problems. And so we've talked with the ITD group, and they have determined that because of how these data are being transmitted and what's being transmitted, that there was going to be no security impacts. And so we were able to take a lot of the language out that was potentially causing a problem because of what was originally in there. And we're still now working with the contract services group to finalize the MOU. And it's just basically a document, again, that's just saying that you are providing us data, we're going to be good stewards of the data, we're going to use it for incident management and other TxSTIC purposes. We will not be handing this data out to the public. The data will be secure. And it's just something that's very important because law enforcement agencies have very high standards in terms of the data that gets out there. Potentially is personal information that could go out. We're not requesting any personal information, but even though all this falls within their guidelines, we still want to make them know that we are going to be good stewards with the information. The other item that has come up with this is that TxDOT has requested that TTI serve as the system manager once that the system is operational. There have been some, as we've set this up, there's potentially 130 feeds coming into the system that that TxDOT need to be on top of. They had requested that as we've set up the system, that we could ask to manage the system. So we have developed a IAC for consideration that's being discussed currently, that will be monitoring the system to make sure that's operational daily, work with 911 centers. Like if we find out that for some reason the city of Round Rock has had no incidents in the last week, it's possible that there was a disruption on there, and we can contact them to see what needs to be fixed. We can provide technical assistance to smaller 911 centers that don't have the necessary IT staff. Manage the user interface, the dashboard, the archive, make sure that everybody has, any changes that are needed, because ultimately the system needs to be the best thing it possibly can so that incidents are detected, better assessed, and that we're tracking how we're all doing in terms of incident management responders. And then finally, we will be working, this is not part of the project, but we will be working with Southwest Research and AECOM to integrate these data into the respective Lone Star and RIM systems. These are the incident management systems that the traffic management staff are currently using to basically track their incidents in their real time. This will help potentially automate things so that it will take some free up some time on traffic managers' plates, and so that they are better to assess things and find other incidents as they occur. Currently you have an incident, you're stuck on that incident, and constantly monitoring it. If this feed can help assist, they're not necessarily needing to go back and fill out certain data points, and so they will hopefully do that automatically. With that in mind, actually, last week, David McDonald, I think he's online. He's the incident management coordinator for TxSTIC. We were up in Kansas City. We were invited by FHWA to attend a peer review with about 6 different Midwest states that also were part of the ED6 project. And we presented on the project, and they're very intrigued by this. They see this as, if we could pull it off in Texas, it could probably be pulled off across the United States. So, I appreciate everybody at TxSTIC who's been working with me on this. I know there have been a few hiccups along the way, but it's, we're moving forward, and it's still very promising. My thanks to ITD for going through this with us with the data issues, and they were very helpful, and CSD for helping us out with our current MOU, and also traffic group. Shelley, I'm going to leave it at that. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Jeff right now?
Shelley, any question from Tom on the chat?
Oh,
In the chat.
looks like we have one from Tom.
Okay.
Tom, do you want to ask, or you want me to just share that? You're welcome to speak up if you want. Do the agreements give TxSTIC the right to share incident information with local agency TMCs, so long as the local agencies follow the required security privacy use protocols? That's a good question. You said David was on. David?
When you say local agency TMCs, do you mean like like your trans guides, your trans visions, your trans stars, or? Because that's the whole purpose of this.
Yes, the idea is, but I mean, I'm thinking of like City of Arlington or Frisco, or, some local agency. As opposed to
a them, or is it coming for? I mean, I guess it would depend. It would. I mean, if I guess what I'm trying to fully understand. I guess in your neck of the woods, I could see this more like if there's an agency that's kind of on the border.
Well, let's do an example.
Okay.
You have, let's say, City of Arlington. It's certainly covered by a TxSTIC, actually 2 TxSTIC districts, but it has its own TMC. Could it tap into the data stream under the agreements that you've negotiated? As long as it agrees to follow the security, privacy, and use case protocols.
I would not. I mean, that's a good question. We would probably have to talk with the agency. I would kind of almost hope that if Arlington PD would share that information with Arlington's Traffic Management Center. I mean, if that's not occurring and there's some reason an issue with that, I mean, that's something we will need to discuss. But at the moment, I mean, that with it sharing internally, we have not discussed that yet, but I don't see why that would potentially be an issue, but I would want to discuss that with the Arlington Police Department so that they would be able to make that decision.
We do have City of Arlington representation today. Maybe you can speak to this. We don't know.
That was just a hypothetical, and I
Yes.
don't mean to derail the conversation, Shelley. Thank you.
It's a good question. It's a fair question. I would kind of hope, and I understand where some of the issues are, but I would hope that there would be some type of communication between traffic management and police internally.
That's great. Mansour, are you on? Do you have any comments on Tom's question by chance?
Sure. No, I mean, like what Tom brought up, and as Jeff mentioned, yes, there is communication between the City of Arlington PD and our Traffic Management Center. But there are occasions where, that communication sometimes breaks too, depending on the level of incidents and what's occurring, and sometimes what PD thinks the way they're handling is, or they're taking control of the intersection. Sometimes we think that we can help out with some changes to the timing too as well. So if that kind of information comes directly to TMC, that might help in addition. It's not that is just that we're gonna currently the issue that you're talking about, that between PD and City TMC communication not occurring. That's not really entirely the case, but having that information might actually help or benefit on top of that.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And then right on top of that, I noticed Min also raised his hand. Min, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to note that in the I-30 Ways pilot program that we had in DFW, we were actually in contact with some of the TxSTICs, the 911 centers along I-30 between Dallas and Fort Worth. And when we interviewed them in terms of getting information from the PSAPs, the 911 centers, a lot of them, not necessarily all of them, said that there was no automatic information that was exchanged between the 911 centers and the TOCs, the traffic management folks. So that would definitely help. But we don't know exactly why that is the case. In some cities, it just they couldn't do it, but they weren't really communicating, at least automatically. Obviously, for major incidents, then they would either get a phone call or do some kind of information exchange contact directly, but it wasn't an automated fashion. So that's basically what we learned.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying thanks. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well,
and I noticed David too.
And this is something, we can discuss, and maybe this is even something that needs to be integrated into the MOU draft. But what I'm hoping is, I would think TxSTIC, out of consideration what it is being given, even if it's within its own city, that would have to be a conversation need to be had. Unless there is, and David and I perhaps, and possibly even the contracting group, need to discuss the idea of, whether, because this is something that the public can't access. This is going to be something you have to log into to access. So the idea here, I mean, if it's something that the appropriate agencies can access, if a city can access that and not broadcast it, maybe there's some way that can be worded into an agreement. I mean, right now, this is for TxSTIC and its TMCs, but this is definitely something we will have to take into consideration.
Okay, we can take one more comment from David, but then we'll need to go on with Monte's presentation.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something? I noticed your hands up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like.
So I just want to address Thomas's question directly. Currently, the agreements do not incorporate sharing that information with the cities. There's several stumbling blocks, even just trying to get the agreements in place where we can get the information to our traffic management centers. So this is definitely something we can look at for future, but I'm just going to assume if it's a local agency and we receive information from a local agency, and so if they were located in the same jurisdiction, there should not be an issue to share that information, but it's just not something we're pursuing in our agreement, just because our goal is much broader.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Mansour, are you ready? Do you want to share your slides, or would you like for us to run those for you?
Yeah, go ahead, run this. I'm afraid I have a couple of videos. If I share, it might have some issue. So
Okay,
yeah, if you run it, that would be great.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. We really appreciate you, Jeff, and that was great conversation and follow up. I just want to make sure that we're getting the presentation going. So yes, that was a good topic, and we can follow up more on that if we want to have another conversation later. So keep that in mind.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for allowing me to do this remotely.
Of course. Thank you for being here however you could. All right, Mansour, I think we're ready for you. Can you see your slides there so you know where you are there?
Yes, yeah, I can see the
Okay,
slide.
great.
Is it gonna? All right, is it gonna be full screen?
What do you say? Oh, full screen.
Oh,
Full screen?
I see the slide kind of a web page from. Is it gonna be like a full screen view of the slide?
Yeah. I just shared in the Teams.
It should be coming up in the.
It's weird, huh? We're just trying to make it come up in the Teams. I think because we're doing through a web browser. It looks a little different. I'm surprised it won't do full screen, huh? F11?
There we go.
Okay, there we are. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mansour. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm Mansour Ahmed. I am with the City of Arlington. I'm Assistant Director for the Public Works Department. So today I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to run through pretty quick, is few kind of use case scenarios, some of the previous implementation we had on the traffic signal operation, but which is kind of relatively unique or a little bit different. And then also one of our connected vehicle corridor that we implemented. And later on, I'm going to talk about some of the other initiatives right now we are taking in collaboration with University of Texas Arlington for some data analytics, safety initiatives, some of those projects. So starting with that connected vehicle as well as the signal operational improvement corridor that I want to talk about is Cooper Street. Whoever not really familiar with Arlington, it's Cooper Street is really the major north-south corridor for Arlington, which carries traffic volume from 45,000 to almost 65,000 ADT, depending on the segment of the corridor. So we had some targeted improvement for traffic mobility on that, as it's a very busy corridor. We did several infrastructure upgrade for the active traffic management from I-30 to Turner Warnell Road, which is about 13 intersections in between. And then infrastructure upgraded included controller upgrade so that we can do connected vehicle demonstration as well as ATSPM implementation, and then several other technological advancement. So next slide, please. So some of those, one of the targeted operational improvement for that corridor was creating a dynamic flash out time for Cooper Street, that because the corridor, as I mentioned, it has very high volume, but it also has a freight railroad crossing add grid, which creates a kind of a heavy blockage for the roadway. And for that freight corridor or freight railroad, we get almost like 28 to 34 trains a day. And each train on average runs like 6 minutes. So if you do the math, it's a very long blockage time for such a heavily traveled corridor. So we wanted to do and adjacent to the railroad, they're like very closely spaced 4 signals. So within 2,000 feet, we had 4 signals that are impacted by that railroad. So which created quite a bit of issues for the traffic operation during the railroad crossing, as well as right after when, traffic started moving, but it was kind of a chaotic situation. So we initiated a dynamic flash out time, and I'm going to explain it a little bit later with a short video, how that operates. Then with the infrastructure upgrade as part of the connected vehicle, we also wanted to do a use case emergency vehicle preemption scenario. So on that one, partnered with Applied Information, use their devices that can do the preemption, as well as some connected vehicle applications. And the other thing is it doesn't really require much of a maintenance because it doesn't have detection by line of sight on every single mass transit pole. It depends on more of the Wi-Fi or radio communication technology from vehicle to the device in the cabinet. And it gives pretty decent data as well, how the preemption are occurring. So the picture on the right is kind of showing several intersections, how the preemption is status of them and when they receive preemption. And it gives pretty decent data that we can track as well, that how it's performing. Next slide, please. So so the dynamic flash out time that I was talking about is that the video kind of explains to that. So if you start playing the video, I'll go through. So these 4 intersections where it starts from UTA Boulevard on the very south side, and then the very north intersection, which a little bit hard to say, is the Division Street. And the railroad is between Division and Main Street. And then all these 4 intersections kind of get impacted when train starts crossing. And right a little bit later, we'll see that a train is coming up. And in this simulation, we kind of prepared it with the typical average railroad duration, which is about 6 minutes. The video running much faster, so it's not gonna be that. So now you can see that train is preemption is occurring, and all the north-south traffic is just gonna stop. During the railroad crossing, the Main Street, Abram Street, Division Street, the North 3 intersection gets directly preemption call from the train. So at that point, north-south stays red, all the east-west traffic kind of cycles through. Right after, so in the before scenario, we didn't have a flash out time. So at that time, right after the operation resumes, what happens is that it goes to regular operation, and controller starts to go through several transitions before they catch up to the sync. And there is quite a bit of a stacked up queue, so it takes quite a while to clear that queue. Now with the dynamic flash out time, even though the train is average 6 minutes, but sometimes it varies from 3-minute crossing to 10-12-minute crossing. So we didn't want to give the same amount of flash out time for every single situation. So that's where the dynamic situation comes in. Depending on the crossing blockage time, the flash out time also varies. So from 3 to 5 minutes, it gives one level of flash out time. Between 5 to 8, it gives different level, 8 to 10, and so on. So train clears. Now vehicle started moving. Before condition is just a regular operation, and the after condition is now a flash out time is active. And you'll see that in the regular operation, it's gonna be kind of a cycle, regular cycle, stop on go kind of situation. So one of the benefit of that the flash out time is because during railroad crossing, all the east-west traffic were moving, even though with the flash out time after railroad, we are holding east-west, but it doesn't create too much of a backup on the east-west side at that situation because they were already getting a lot more green time during the railroad blockage. So in that 2,000 feet section, depending on the time of day, with this operation, we see that we can really save 25 seconds to 1.5 minutes of travel time, depending on the time of day. So definitely during heavy rush hour, it gives the most benefit. So you can see that, that in the after condition, the queue cleared a lot quicker. In the before condition, it took quite a while. So next slide, please. So other benefit or other targeted improvement on that is that we want to utilize the ATSPM to kind of diagnose issues with our timing and things like that. And then definitely prepare the corridor for several connected vehicle use case scenario. And then we are working with the University of Texas Arlington, where from the we have traditional U.ATSPM system implemented in the city, but UTAME, which is UTA call it, is kind of adding more to that ATSPM layer. So it's using kind of the same database, take the data, but also taking data from vehicle trajectory data like Waze or other third-party data for travel time to kind of overlay that information to give us a much clearer picture. So we're working with UTA, and I know several other agencies are also working kind of similar with UTA there. But that's something that is definitely in our radar to kind of make progress in that. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is kind of the UTAME architecture over here. So the background, the top left picture over here is our existing ATSPM system. We have about 375 signals, not all of them in the ATSPM set right now. We have more than 130 signals under the U.ATSPM system where you can get performance matrices from there. And some of those are right now being used, or their data being used to explore and develop the UTAME system over here, which is taking vehicle trajectory data and some other data from here. Next slide, please. And this is the connected vehicle application video. It has a voice explanation, so it kind of explains itself. So I'll just let you watch the video.
Get ready for green.
What's fun about what we're about to see here is the first connected vehicle arterial in Texas. What that really means is we've got 6 intersections here in central Arlington. On the south end, we'll be going through the first intersection that's by the University of Texas at Arlington.
Get ready for green.
The beauty about using this technology, it's a cell phone that using a downloaded free app that gives me the information that, hey, get ready for green. If I was using Waze as a navigational tool, or some other thing was kind of popping up on my phone, or I was using my phone for music or Spotify or any one of the app applications, I'm still going to get those message sets as I go through the intersections or approach the technologies that happen to be equipped with our systems.
Red light. Get ready for green.
We have a nice tool that turns the lights on at the right time in the school zone for the safety of the kids crossing at the school zone. And if you happen to be driving through that active school zone while it's flashing and you exceed the speed limit while you're in that zone.
Speeding in school zone.
How cool is that? There are a number of commuters here that live in the area and walk to school or bike to school.
Proximity alert pedestrian.
When you have 35 or 40,000 students, many of them who are walking around campus, if you could prevent a couple of those bumps, it's a great thing to be able to promote. And so if they have the Travel Safely app and I have mine on, that's another level of safety that allows me to keep from running over somebody along the way.
So when the video was created, it was about 3 years ago when we did the pilot at 6 intersections, and that time the video was created. But later on, we have the whole Cooper Street corridor, which is included 30 intersections are covered with that. And it's not right now, it's not just the phone application, it also has the CP2X technology out there. So, but because of the usage or how that CP technology is available to the cars, it's cell phone can be used, and as you can see that the application can be used as a background. It doesn't really have to need a user interaction or look at the screen or anything like that. So it has the part that where the driver doesn't really need to be distracted. So now talking about some of the future initiatives that we have right now, we have many of our traditional traffic monitoring cameras or detection cameras, which didn't have the AI built into those technologies. So we are using kind of a working with UTA actually on a joint program where some of those existing cameras can be used to collect traffic information. So adding AI technology to the existing cameras where we can basically collect traffic count information, safety data, and eventually replace some of our manual count efforts, whether it's related to taking account for variant analysis, whether it's some of those count stations that we have, we report yearly, and we definitely can replace many of those using this technology. So it's kind of under development. We have the initial tool, but several of the testing are going on right now. Next slide, please. And definitely safety is definitely a big factor. So citywide, we have the citywide pedestrian initiative. Well, we started with providing very known beneficial tools such as lit pedestrian intervals at intersections, omitting flashing LRO with pedestrian conflicts with the left turns, and that have been proven really beneficial for many of our intersections. And we started that program also somewhat in 2017, and now we have majority of the intersections are covered in that. We also have HSIP project that will do rest of the intersections where we haven't implemented the dynamic flashing LRO operation yet. But the next step, that also a project that we are collaborating with UTA, where the LiDAR detection technologies are being used to kind of look at pedestrian behavior, pedestrian conflict analysis with vehicles, near misses, and kind of from there take the data and identify some of the mitigation strategies. So that's kind of a big thing that we are focusing on, improving the safety and how we can kind of focus on the vulnerable road users to kind of bring them, make them safer, provide them less delay in the operation, and overall have a better operation. Next slide, please. So that is kind of the overview of what we're kind of focusing on and what we're looking at down the road. Here is my contact information if any additional information is needed.
Thank you, Mansoor. That was a good presentation. It was really nice to see the graphics and watch how, over time it made a difference. Have y'all noticed, are you implementing this now on Cooper Street or
no,
Arlington? Or
Cooper Street has already been implemented. So so the dynamic flash out time we implemented right before the pandemic. So at that time, measuring the benefit was kind of wasn't, because traffic kind of died down overall. But now we see quite a bit of good benefit as all the traffic come back up.
Yeah, I think I would have appreciated it the many times I've driven through that area. It gets pretty crowded around there. But yeah, so thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions online or in person? Feel free to speak up. I don't see any hands raised. Am I missing anything?
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
When he said this is the first connected vehicle, what does he mean with that? The phone was doing all the signals and the messaging. So why the vehicle is connected? And how it's connected?
Did you hear that question, Monsieur? Did you hear
Yes, I think so. I kind of briefly heard that. And yes, you have a very good point, because it was showing the cell phone, like I was mentioning. So the reason when the presentation of the frame door and when they're showing the first connected vehicle mentioned, like it was several years ago as a pilot with that, and at that time kind of their idea was, okay, still kind of bringing that information to the roadway user, even though it's coming through a cell phone. But right now it is, if a vehicle has an onboard CV2X unit, then it can directly receive the information from that signal. So the video was kind of relatively old, not having with the CV2X onboard unit. With that, it was showing that how general user with a cell phone application can also still receive it and be connected to the infrastructure.
Did that answer your question? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what traffic analysis tools did you use, for this, and how far back did you go in your data?
Are you talking about the railroad video that we have shown? On that one, we used two different tools. We used definitely the Synchro, our timing analysis tool, and also the simulation was created in vSim, where we could show the railroad preemption also can do the real actual traffic controller model in there. So we had to use the traffic controller emulator with the vSim tool, so that we can program the preemption and then after effect of the dynamic flash out time. So the vSim tool was used for that.
Great questions. Anyone? Go ahead.
Well, the pedestrian detection, does this for this project, does it use the camera or radar or LiDAR?
Are you asking for the detention?
No, the pedestrian detection.
Oh, detection, sorry.
If you're the pedestrian, presence, how does system knows?
Did you hear that question, like how the pedestrians are detected?
Yes. So we are using two different tools. One is, yes, cameras, the traditional camera that has the AI built in that can now recognize objects with detection. But to enhance the analysis, or to really enhance the conflict areas, near misses, we are actually working with UTA to use LiDAR detection. So which can actually identify object in more of a three-dimensional aspect, and can have a much more accurate detection and tracking the movement of the pedestrian. So right now, two of our intersections are equipped with LiDAR detections, and those are being used to identify the safety aspect of pedestrian operation.
Did that answer your question? Do we have any questions online? I haven't seen any. And then anyone else? Questions from Monsieur? Go ahead.
Right, well, this is not a question, but I just want to commend them for eliminating the yellow flashing light to avoid pedestrian conflict.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Monsieur, did you hear what he said? He's
I didn't fully capture the question.
Eliminating the yellow flashing light for the pedestrians.
Yeah, so in our city we had very few flashing yellow initially. A lot of them were 5-section with green ball protected permissive operation, and we have seen and we have experienced actually fatality there, where pedestrian is crossing and a left turn with the permissive condition at that point, actually had a conflict and there was a fatal crash there. And right at that time, we kind of started looking at what we can do to eliminate that kind of conflict. So at that point, we started exploring with our controller operation, and we saw that the newer version of the controller that where we can have a flashing alert operation and can omit the operation when a pedestrian call is active at that time. So we started implementing that. So many of our signal heads where we had 5 section with green ball operation, we replaced those with flashing yellow arrow section operation left turn. Started with that, and then program the controller when there is a conflicting situation. Left turn will only get a protected operation, and the flashing yellow arrow will be omitted until the pedestrian crossing is active, or pedestrian indication actually is active. I'm not sure if that fully answered the question, but that's kind of the operation that we're targeted to.
It was more a comment, but yeah, that does help to have that information. So thank you for that. And I don't know if we have any more in-person questions. I still don't see any hands raised. I really appreciate your time, Monsieur. We've been trying to to round you up for a while. So it was nice to finally see you're back home in Arlington and we were able to connect. So thank you for bringing this interesting information to us. It's great to hear what's going on in Arlington.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to talk about this, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. And with that, the next thing we have on our schedule is another break, but we also have the council roundtable. I think we can skip the break if y'all are okay with that and see if anybody has anything to discuss. The purpose of the roundtable is just that opportunity for anyone who's attending the meeting to talk about what it is that they think is really important. They want to share with the rest of us. And you don't have to do a presentation, but just a quick mention of something coming up, you know, the latest most important thing to you, or if you just want to say something you're interested in hearing more about from us. And I'll let Darren lead this discussion. Do you want to break first, or do you want to just go ahead and go into it and get it going?
We can go into it.
Does anyone need a break, or are y'all okay? I'm okay. So yeah, I mean, and it can be casual, just sit where you are. You don't have to get up here if you don't want to. You're welcome to. You don't have to. This is very informal, I would say.
Well, couple thoughts before we jump into that. One, really appreciate the people's time that spoke just now. I didn't come from a transportation background, and it fascinates me. You watch the movies, it looks like everything's integrated, and you know the typical New York City. They know where the subway is. They know what's going on with all the traffic signals. The bad guys get in the network. They change all the signals green so they can rob the bank and all that stuff. But what I've learned is that's really not the case, right? And through no fault of anybody, you know, in all their efforts, it's just that over time, all of these capabilities have grown. The traffic management centers at the local or city level, the ones that belong to the state, and you have the 911 call centers. You have all these different entities that have sprung up over time for necessity and to do the roles that we expect of them as a public. And you know, I liken it to the way it was with before Microsoft or before Apple, when you had all these different types of software that performed similar functions, but they didn't work together, and they didn't have a common operating system in many cases. And all the pains that we went through in business and other organizations in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to make that come together over time. Or to work with the software developers. And I think this is the same thing. I think you're seeing that happen now in transportation. You're seeing all of these great ideas and these great activities that have happened, you know, way back when, all the way till now, beginning to converge on each other. And it's a challenge. There'll be winners and losers in that respect. You know, there'll be ones that are better. And then just as soon as you pick one solution, there'll be another one that's even better than that. And I don't know that that's bad. I know it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge as you see all these the questions about what software did you use and what was your traffic management solution. or what is the call center solution? And I just read some research that was very much related to this regarding addressing Waze and its data, and is it better or worse than what we're hearing in a call center, and is it better and worse than what we see in a TMC? But what I do think we can do as a state and as an innovation organization is champion the concepts of open and shared data or data exchanges that work with a common standard. And we're not so worried about what solution you choose. And I think the same thing is, we don't try to dictate what app you use on your phone for maps, right? There's so many different ones, and they're appealing to different people for different reasons. But if we can get that information out regarding the system to all those applications, then that's a win to me. That's helping the public at large. And I think the same thing is true of all these initiatives. And welcome, you saw the City of Arlington, what they're doing, but I welcome y'all to make sure that we know about it so that we can, one, share that, but also incorporate that into our overall understanding and picture of what's the health of development in the state. And then we can share that nationally, and then pulling that all the way back into the innovation effort of what the national STIC is going to be. I really applaud the folks at the Innovation Office at Federal Highways for, they spend quite a bit of effort on everyday counts, and they continue to do that. But they also, a couple of years back, decided homegrown innovations were something that they wanted to elevate and then share nationally. And I think that's really a great compliment now to we're not only seeing national level research being shared broadly, but we're seeing what's happening in states and localities, make it all the way up and across the nation. And I think that'll lift all our boats. As we talk about that, and we talk about what's the innovation effort in the department, it's really about the same idea. It's about trying to pull together all these disparate activities and then making it available broadly within the state and elsewhere. With that, and that concept in mind, is there anybody that has something that they're recently doing that they want to share from any one of our members? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Come on up.
I'm up here because I don't talk very well.
The people online can hear you. Do you want me to use the microphone?
I'll let that. Yeah, you can leave that on. I don't know how.
It's off right now.
Oh, then it's fine.
Okay.
As long as folks can.
Can you all hear Natalie? Kevin, can you hear Natalie?
Hello, I'm Natalie Bedker. I'm with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We just have a few things we're working on in innovation. We recently released a new procurement for our 511 DFW system. One thing we're adding to that, which is a live operator, is what we're trying to partner with our districts to provide, really to help stranded motorists before they leave their vehicle on the side of our roads in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. And so one thing that we're trying to accomplish with that is see if we're able to reach those folks. One, it's dangerous to be out there on the roadways trying to fix your vehicle, and then two, reach them before they leave their vehicle. But that procurement's currently out on the street, and TxSTIC's very much engaged in that effort, in which possibly to go statewide for a 511 system. So travelers in our state can call 511 to get help if needed, is really the thought behind that, because currently they have to call, if they're just stranded, they have to call different numbers depending on where you're at in the state. Another item that we're working on is we recently, our Regional Transportation Council, our policy board, recently approved a $50 million safety program in which technology and innovation will come out of that. We have things from speed enforcement and speed education, trying to engage people in their driving behavior. Not sure how that's going to work, but maybe through some types of apps similar to what we saw, telling people to slow down in a school zone or something might be a good application for that. Also bike and pedestrian education and engineering, and then roadway engineering and technology, things that can help solve safety problems on our road through technology is some things we're looking at for that program. In addition to that, we have a regional data hub. Darren talked about integration within our region. We have a lot of integration efforts going on, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to integrate different traffic management centers. So we're looking at possibly the Florida Department of Transportation has a data hub framework, which is built off the Lone Star system. And so we're looking to bring that to the Dallas-Fort Worth region, pilot it and see if we can get that platform and framework set up so that way when folks integrate once, we can continue to use it for years instead of every time we go out for a proprietary system, we start from scratch. So that's another effort that we're working on. And then last but not least, we're working with TxSTIC on another application, the Surface Transportation System Funding Alternatives Program. We're trying to build off our Go Karma system that detects passengers in the vehicle and applies appropriate toll rates. And for that particular effort, we're taking it one step further to put a back-end framework together that could get incentives for people that carpool on other facilities in our region to sustain the life of our transportation system. If we can reduce the demand so they could carpool, they could possibly take transit. There's lots of options because it's all virtual. It's geo-referenced on our transportation system. So are there incentives we can provide to folks that change from driving by themselves in their car to doing something else to help us manage traffic in the long term? So those are some things that we're up to. Thank you.
Great. Now we have one question from Brenda. Brenda, do you want to unmute?
I'm sorry,
No?
it's not a
Okay.
question, it's for an update.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Brenda, go ahead, go.
Brenda, go.
Go ahead, Brenda. Feel free to speak up.
Yes, hello, good morning. Just providing an update as well on some of the innovation that we're working on. And similar to a lot of the what Natalie mentioned. So I'll be repeating some items there. So we're in the Houston district, we're working on a Connect Smart app and platform. It's an ATC MTD grant that we received a few years back. We have developed a multimodal platform and app that provides a one-stop shop for multimodal options, driving, cycling, carpooling, and the integration of transit, which is where you can, with a trip planner, you can plan, pay for your transit, and take your ride. This app, what we're doing here, the innovation of that is that we're tapping into both the TxSTIC side, which is the supply side, and the demand side, which is the active demand management or travel demand management. We have incentives within the app that you can provide users with the ultimate goal of changing people's behaviors towards congestion relieving choices. That was the ultimate goal that we had for the grant, is reducing congestion here in Houston. Prior to the pandemic, we had about 80% of our commuters that drive alone, and so that's where we were trying to make an impact, as well as ensuring that we make alternative modes available to users, and if they don't know that they exist, through the app we're doing that. We've integrated a couple of items from the TxSTIC side, including our tow and go. We've worked wonderfully with our counterparts at TransStar for us to be able to have that tow and go button in the app, and someone can get access to a tow immediately, as well as integrating with Applied Info, who has the school zone information. And we recently had a campaign on that where we worked with a high school to get more eyes and more knowledge to the public about the industry campaign with our traffic group, Ugana and his staff. So those are some of the items that we have, but and there's more obviously from the Connect Smart, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you all may have. Thank you. Sending back to you.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you
Yes, I
share
hear
a
you.
link on that?
Yes,
Can you hear
I
me?
can share.
Okay.
I can share the website with the group.
Perfect. Anyone else online? Anyone in person? Oh, we've got Gregory. Greg, do you want to go ahead and speak up?
Sure. Greg Ellsberg, Chief Innovation Officer at Dallas Area Rapid Transit. Just a couple of quick updates. About a month ago, we launched our GoPass mobile app, which is a multimodal trip planning and ticketing platform that we use across the DFW region. We added Corpus Christi as a new agency to that platform. So we now have 11 agencies using GoPass, both inside Texas and outside the state. So that's great. We also have launched McKinney Urban Transit District as of last week, which is Collin County RISE program. It's a small program in the northern band of DFW. That is an eligibility-based service that once again is powered through that same platform. We have a piece of integration work that we've been working on for a while that is a national first that I'm really excited about that I wanted to share too. So we use a booking partner called Spare Labs for our on-demand, and that's powered through for all of DART's on-demand services. And we have a very extensive on-demand network now. We have 30 zones, over 300 square miles of on-demand services. And this is bus replacements on demand. We took 36 bus routes out in January and expanded from 15 to 30 zones. Through that partner, we've extended to provide an integration to TNC platforms now. So if a rider opts in through either our mobile app or phoning our reservation center, Spare Labs can send that trip over to Uber. And then if the trip matches to Uber and if Spare's logic determines that's better to send in the dedicated fleet vehicle, they'll deliver that Uber directly to the rider. Now, why that's special is because the rider doesn't have to have the Uber app. They don't have to have an account with Uber. They don't have to have any payment method with Uber. It's all done through our platform, through DART's fare payment system and integrated to our fare policy. So we have a time-based fare policy. So that means if I'm traveling from downtown Dallas to Rowlett, which is an on-demand zone, I can buy my ticket, I can take the train, I can transfer to that on-demand service and on from there. So we're rolling that out now. Started with phone and reservations last week, and we're expanding zone by zone, few zones every couple of days. It's going well, and then we're planning on extending that to the mobile app for signups in January.
Okay,
And
we missed the very last part. You're cutting out a little bit. You said expanding the mobile app. That's okay. Expanding the mobile app.
So the extension of that through the mobile app is planned in January, so that people can do that opt-in in the app to say yes to TNC services. The big thing for us is with the volume of on-demand services we have, those trips, if you book through a TNC, is about $6 a trip for us. Dedicated fleet's about $16 a trip. So if we can transition a number of riders over, if they're open to taking those trips in an FTA compliant manner, then we can save a significant amount on those trips and usually shorten the wait times for riders too at the same time.
Great. Hey, thank you
Sure.
for sharing. That's a great one.
No problem. And with Collin County, that program, we're doing the same thing, but with Lyft for Collin County. So it's not just Uber, it's both TNC partners. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else online want to speak up? That was pretty good. Got some applause on there. Anyone in person, you're welcome to. Yeah, you don't have to stand up here, but they can see you if you do. It's kind of your choice.
Hi, my name is Samer Disuki. I'm a professor at UT San Antonio. And a couple of years back, we had a project from TxSTIC Innovation that we looked into ideas to come up with ways to harvest power from pavement. We realized that at some point we can have a lot of sensors, a lot of cameras everywhere in the network, and some of the rural areas doesn't have access to power. So we tried to look into what we could do to come up with ways to harvest power from areas that doesn't have power. So several options. The loads from the traffic and try to harvest that load, which is mechanical energy, into electric power. And we come up with a device that we actually prototyped that sometimes back, but we advanced that work by looking into the thermal energy difference between the top part of the surface. I'm coming from the pavement background. So you have in our pavement network in South Texas, a lot of heat. So the surface temperature is always higher than the soil underneath. So that thermal gradient has about 20 degrees centigrade. So we looked into ways to capture that difference and convert that thermal heat into a stream of electric voltage. And we're able to come up with a prototype out of this, and that stream of electric voltage was sufficient to store it in batteries and use that to power sensors. So now we have access to this stream of power, no matter where you are in the network, to harvest and activate sensors. And these sensors, which is commonly used in our network, which is basically detections for roads, speed detections, counting for vehicles, and also enough to activate LED lighting. And that was really the key for what we come up with from that project. Some of the area doesn't have that power to activate very simple LEDs that you can mount it to stop signs, which is part of the innovations of the EDC that the Federal Highway mentions, improving visibility and night visions. So that was one of the work that we've done. The second part, I drive a lot in rural areas, and I missed a lot of stop signs. So apparently I'm still one piece. I never get engaged in one accident yet. But what I noticed that I have trouble seeing the stop signs. So we come up with what we call the smart stop signs. So what happens is, typically there's two signage you will have before you approach an intersections. One, which is a warning signal that gives you a sign that there's a stop sign ahead. And there is the regular red stop sign at the intersection. So what we come up with a thermal sensor that will be mounted at the first sign that will capture the vehicle approach the intersection. What it does, it captures the time, the speed of the vehicle based on the heat thermal that comes from the vehicle, which comes either from the engine or from the tires. Once it captures that vehicle at a certain time and the speed, it triggers the signal to send that with a Bluetooth to the stop sign, which has a mounting light. This is all at this point are powered by solar panel, but we are looking into how we capture that power from the pavement. But now you have a vehicle approach to an intersection and being detected about 200, 300 feet before approaching the intersections. And what it happens once being triggered, the light at the stop sign is going to flash with a flashing beacons or an LED is mounted, flash in the front of the driver, warning that there is an intersection ahead of it. So instead of having just nothing to be available to the driver at night vision, now you have a flashing beacons or an LED to just flash only if that vehicle approach in a higher speed and not able to slow down. So this is two ideas that we have been working on it at UT San Antonio, which is part of the innovation that we started again, beginning from a TxSTIC project. I just want to share that with you. Thank you.
Did y'all want to say anything about workforce development? I don't know if y'all had any updates on it or.
Workforce
No?
development.
No?
I can give a few updates, but we're pretty much just in the planning process. right now.
Okay.
Research.
They're just planning right now. That's an update. So,
Yep.
Thank you.
Go
Go ahead.
I want to comment first. I'm really excited about the project, the Tim's presentation. I'm really excited about seeing how that's going to translate into how it really helps the enforcement response in dealing with these crashes. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know I've covered it before, but we're hoping by the end of 2023, maybe early 2024, that we get our in-car systems transitioned over to a completely new platform. That's not only our in-car where they do their reports, their citations, including commercial vehicle inspections. If it's a commercial vehicle stop, that plus it's also integrated with our communications facilities, so that there's basically communication between the app. We don't have as much radio traffic, actually over-the-air radio traffic as we used to years ago because of all the in-car systems. Even our current antiquated system has allowed less over-air communication. But we're pretty excited about that because that's, this is 20, the system we're using is well over 20 years old. You can't do anything with it. So we're excited about that. The other thing is our state crash team. They're the ones that are primarily responsible for our TIMS training and things like that. But we're We continue to train internally, all of our folks internally, but they also train a lot of external agencies as well. And, you know, UAS always comes up, but our crash team and other areas in the agency utilize UAS in a lot of scenarios, but they'll use them for mapping crashes. So touching on those things like being able to use UAS to map a fatal crash scene without having to completely shut down a highway is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal for us, a lot safer, and it's great for traffic flow and everything else as well. So those are the main things that are going on right now. Just want to pass that on.
Great, thank you.
We have one member that's online.
Okay, we got an online.
Well, I don't know if he has any updates. Alan McWilliams, I don't know if
Okay,
Alan has any.
do you have any online updates? Alan, do you have anything this time? We just want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity. I don't know if we need to go. Okay, I don't know if we need to go through the list, but I think for the most part, oh, go ahead. You want to come up? We have one person coming up, so online. I don't think I'm keeping people from lunch yet.
Good morning, everyone. Darren, thank you so much for hosting us today and the opportunity to share. My name is Kim Williams. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Houston Metro. So I just wanted to share a couple quick updates. For Darren, this may not be new information, but Houston Metro is participating in 2 autonomous vehicle projects. And so we did a small demonstration project with a low-speed autonomous vehicle up until the pandemic, March 2019. We were fortunate this period of the pandemic to get a Federal Transit Administration grant, Accelerating Innovative Mobility Grant, to scale that project. The phase 1 project was very successful, but we also determined that we needed a larger size vehicle, and we needed a vehicle that was fully compliant with Buy America and also with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so we have partnered with Phoenix Motor Cars, Perrone Robotics, and I'm excited that we just executed that contract with Perrone to bring what we call the Shuttle of the Future. And that project, that vehicle is being retrofitted and developed as we speak. And we are partnering with Texas Southern University and University of Houston to create a first and last mile community connector. A couple unique features about this project is that it is in what's considered to be an underserved community. So we'll be able to look at autonomous technology from the perspective and lens of equity and access. This vehicle will be completely ADA accessible. And so we will have a definite focus on accessibility for all users. We will have interaction with the traffic signals in that area, which is a high capacity network street. And we will also be having interaction with Metro's light rail line. And so we'll be exploring a number of use cases and complications with that project. So look for that development to testing to start in the summer and for operations to start in the late summer, early fall at the 2 campuses. The second autonomous vehicle project that Houston Metro has been involved with is the Automated Bus Consortium. This has been a 4-year effort now of a group of transit agencies ranging from rural to university to yard, DOTs. And so it's about a dozen agencies who partnered to create first an autonomous vehicle specification for a full-size autonomous electric bus. And each of the participating agencies have identified at least one pilot route. And so for Houston Metro, we've identified one of our park and ride routes, the 160 Memorial Route, where this bus may operate. So the state of Michigan is one of the partners, and they are executing the joint procurement. And so we are closing in on the finalists for that particular project. The Houston Metro Board will still have to decide to advance to that next phase. But for those of you who have been tracking the Automated Bus Consortium, that is coming about. And I know we're talking about innovation and technology, but I'm going to talk about something that's low tech, but we still think it's innovative and a best practice Houston has been deploying the red lanes concept, which is basically using a bus-only lane, but including treatments and lane striping, marking, signage to better educate users on how to use the street network. The reason that we consider that project to be innovative is because we are also pairing it with a bus stop streamlining. Currently, we have buses that sit on the right curb facing side of the street. That sometimes generates some safety concerns because if the bus is queued for pickup at the curb, it's difficult to see around it. So as a part of our Red Lanes project, we will be doing a bus streamlining to remove those right side bus turns and moving those stops back slightly. So that should create a safer intersection for the bus, for the users in the carpool lane, as well as pedestrians, cyclists, and scooters, which we have a lot more on the two test routes that we are deploying, which are Milam and Travis in downtown Houston. So those are just a few quick updates from Houston, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Great update. Good to hear. Anyone else interested in giving an update? Got some applause. So I think with that, I mean, if we have any more updates, you're free to jump in now before we get ready to do our last closing remarks and adjourn. So I'm gonna say last call, right? A few auctions. Oh, here's an important one. Go ahead, Kevin. I mean, again, you don't have to go there, but everybody can hear.
Oh, they can hear me. That's good. If I speak loud enough, typically people say I speak pretty low, so. But I did want to at least mention, there's an ASHTO Innovation Initiative that I sit as a member on. And when the Houston idea was brought up, at least about the red lane.
Yes.
Red lane. Good. I just wanted to mention, we typically annually try to identify innovations for this particular committee. And what that committee basically does is primarily help with marketing these innovations to other states. They'll provide some type of team that will come and assist with developing a marketing strategy and help with potentially travel or even marketing material. You know, and all things, I think, especially even in this particular council, that, you know, the ideas that come out, we want to share them, right? If there's something that come up, we want to steal it. So a lot of other states outside of Texas are looking for things such as these innovations as well to kind of help their cities and states. So I guess whenever we do our next solicitation, I'll try to reach out to some of that, see if those are worthwhile utilizing or sharing.
We could do that, definitely. We get the word out for sure. Especially now that we're bringing the teams together. Innovation is starting to share more, so hopefully we can all learn from each other. And I hope that if you're staying for the task force meeting, that you learn a lot. You'll see some of the familiar faces, and we're just trying to get everyone to get to know each other. So we don't break down those silos and turn them into cylinders of excellence, right? You can say one more thing if you want to say bye.
Well, she did, I mean, she pointed, I really didn't talk about this earlier, but for a long time now, many years, we've had 3 separate efforts, if not 4, working on innovation in its many meetings for TxSTIC. One being the State Transportation Innovation Council. We also have what's known as the Texas Innovation Alliance, which grew out of our other effort, which is the Texas Technology Task Force. The Tech Task Force was focused and still is on identifying emerging technologies and what their impact could be as it relates to mobility. And is that something TxSTIC needs to worry about or think about and plan for, or is it something that more broadly in the state we need to plan for, or just be aware of its impact on mobility? And then the Smart Cities initiatives happened, and as a part of Smart Cities, we had a number of our state elements very interested in winning that. We didn't win it, but we had a lot of good effort from all of our local jurisdictions in the state. And they continued the idea of they wanted to collaborate on innovation and really more from a deployment and community needs level, where TxSTIC has been in support of that. But there's a lot of things that both elements do every day and bring to us every day that I think are valuable to the members of the STIC and vice versa. I think that, the discussions that we have just add to what those two communities also know. So one of the things I really started pushing this year was that we needed to better align the three efforts and bring them together. Now, that doesn't mean we always physically have to be meeting on the same dates. It does help a little in planning for us. So we'll try to do that more often. But the goal was to invite the members of those organizations to listen in today to this, and as well, STIC members are welcome to, stick around and listen to the tech task force this afternoon. And then tomorrow, the Innovation Alliance is actually, its members are going to be focusing on what we anticipate will be very soon to be announced electric vehicle charging grants. There's $2.5 billion in federal grants that are still supposed to be published this year, according to the law. So we'll see. They got a few more weeks to get those out. But they want to talk about, they want to plan for, what are their needs and plan what they're going to put in their applications for those grants. So they'll be working on that tomorrow. So we continue to try and collaborate on these efforts, bring all the communities together, and we'll see where we go from there in terms of how they work together in the future. Another good example of that, and I failed to mention earlier, is our annual forum, which we typically, that's hosted by our Transportation Commission, typically happens in late January or early February. We're going to now begin to share the forum with the Texas Mobility Summit, which is part of our Innovation Alliance main annual effort. We're going to bring those two together, and the forum will be 1 year where we precede a legislative session, but we'll still have the flavor of the Mobility Summit added to that. And then in the subsequent year, the off session year, it'll be all about the Mobility Summit, and we won't have a forum. And we think that's going to be great because we'll bring more locals together with more of the state focused efforts and innovation in the larger system. And just really excited about that and looking forward to that forum, which happens in early February, right? Oh, it's right in front of me. There it is, late January, and then we'll roll right into the National STIC a couple weeks later. So I think all these things are complementing each other and coming together in a nice way, and just really excited about it. Thank you again, Kurt. You got anything you want to add on every day or?
I had a little plug I wanted to.
Okay, yeah, come on up.
Before we start, I know we're getting close to lunch, but one of the things Federal Highways is working on is a smart streets or complete streets workshop. We piloted this complete streets workshop last week and went over well. We had about 30 participants, but complete streets is just a way to develop a street network that is safe for all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, ADA, elderly, you name it, freight movements, things like that. I think it ties in well with what we heard today is how we can move people and goods safer and more efficiently across our network. And if you're interested in the Complete Streets workshop, we're piloting it across the states. And as I mentioned, we did it in Beaumont. We'll do another one in Rio Grande Valley in March. But if you'd like to have one come to Austin or your location, just let us know and we can bring in our consultant and our team to develop an agenda for you and make it site specific. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Did you want to mention the pill on Friday? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, another interesting workshop we got putting together is the PEL, or Planning and Environmental Linkages Workshop. It's going to be held on Friday the 9th. It's going to go from like 9 to 4 p.m. Same conference room as the Tempo. The Tempo meeting the day before. And we're going to be talking about how we can integrate planning and environmental linkages better so we can save time, save money. PEL was actually an EDC 1 initiative back in 2010-11. So it's been around for quite a while, but we're looking to implement that statewide through a statewide users guide for PEL and hopefully expand its use so we can save money on those major corridors you're hearing about being built across the state of Texas. So I'm really excited about that. And if you have the time or interest, then come by and sit in on that session. It's going to be from 9 to 4. And I forget the room number, but it's one of these. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. Yeah, we've got an agenda here somewhere. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then just the last update is, thank you, UT Arlington. Thank you to our IT support today and all folks from UT Arlington. Thank you, Shelley, for pulling all this together and everybody that makes these things happen. I know that there's a lunch for those that are here in person. You're missing out. That's why you have to come and be live. So, please join us again. Tech Task Force kicks off at 12:30. So we'll be back online at 12:30 and looking forward to talking about the future of hydrogen in the state, as well as some updates on some other emerging tech initiatives. So happy to have you join us for that as well. Turn it over to Shelley.
All right.